Hello and welcome to This Week in Bitcoin, brought to you by Relai Private. This week's focus is mainly for the mining industry, but we also have some interesting news out of Wall Street. So let's get stuck in right away. News number one are just last week's final news before, or actually I did send out the newsletter already, so I wasn't able to include it, but I will include it today. And that is that Russia has now allowed individuals, jurisdictional people, or businesses to actually mine Bitcoin and other crypto assets. In the past, this has been illegal in Russia, and there were pretty hard sanctions or even jail time if you did it or if you were caught. But this time around, they legalized it because they've seen the potential that the Bitcoin mining industry offers. Makes sense. Russia is also a very energy-rich country, so there might be some things that they can do there. And then in a second attempt, the Russian parliament also co-signed a bill that will now allow to settle international trade, inter-country trade, and even trades between different peers from business to business with digital assets, predominantly crypto, but there's also some wiggle room for things such as potentially eCash or other digital payment solutions. And that's okay as long as it's not hurting the Russian ruble. That's like one of the sentences in the bill. So the central bank does have some influence there. But nevertheless, it's great to see that a country that has been very hostile against Bitcoin and digital assets in the past is now actually converting and saying, hey, there is room to do stuff here. If you want to, let's go for it. But it will be interesting to see what Russia does in particular, because they've been heavily closed off due to the sanctions in the Western world. So I don't imagine that a lot of miners will suddenly move to Russia and start mining there. But we can keep a close eye to the hash rate and also to these trades to see what's going on. If you are in Russia, if you know someone, or if you just like to see that Bitcoin is winning, this is definitely good news. And we'll look forward to what's coming out next in, let's say maybe 12 months to see whether there's going to be an improvement or whether this was just another political promise. News number two come out of the US, particularly from the public miner Mara Digital Holding. They have previously in July bought around 20,000 Bitcoin and now announced a convertible note offering of $300 million, of which they used $250 million to actually buy Bitcoin. Again, they bought 4,144 Bitcoin, expanding their stack to exactly 25,000 Bitcoin. And it's an interesting angle because you would think that miners are actually the ones that use Bitcoin as a treasury reserve asset, especially with the performance it provides and also the security it provides to actually future-proof your business. But mining is such a hard-fought business where you have very slim margins. You mostly have to sell whatever is the asset you're actually mining, unless the price increases drastically in a short time period. But mostly it's mine, sell, keeping the operations alive with very slim revenue, if any, at one point. And you're actually going public to, get the capital to expand your entire operations. But Mara now thought, you know what, that doesn't make sense. We've seen what happened with MicroStrategy, how they protected their company and their stock. So we should do the same now. And this is why they decided to actually get going and buying Bitcoin. There's roughly around 50 million left of their convertible note offerings. So far, there hasn't been any announcement if they use this to additionally buy Bitcoin or if that's maybe just a cash reserve. But nevertheless, it's good to see. And this whole topic, Bitcoin as a treasury reserve asset, is gaining popularity very, very fast. And then the last news are a mix of everything that's happening at Wall Street currently. It's been a crazy week. ETF inflows are back. Shareholders have been buying the dip crazily, and a lot of institutional interest is also there, mainly by Morgan Stanley. They actually allow their salespeople now to go out and pitch spot Bitcoin ETF offerings, mainly in BlackRock and the Fidelity ETFs. So that is already happening. The marketing department, famously, Bitcoin doesn't have one, but the marketing department of these Wall Street firms is going super aggressive into it. And then on the other hand, you also read that Goldman Sachs, who's been very critical of Bitcoin, they went further mile to say, we're not going to offer any ETFs. We're not fan of this stuff. They actually have exposure to all of these ETFs at around $420 million in total, mainly in the BlackRock ETF, where they're the third largest shareholder, and in all of the others ETFs to just diversify the offering a bit. But that's been happening. And then on top of all that, because this is all institutional interest, we've also heard out of Europe where there has been a study released with numbers of central and national banks in which assets, asset classes, or in which companies they're invested in. And to our surprise, Norway and Switzerland, both national banks, have exposure to MicroStrategy, roughly around 540 Bitcoin at the time of recording this, because there's always a bit of delay when they're actually reporting how many shares they own. So it could be a bit more by the time the video goes out. But they have an indirect exposure to Bitcoin if you actually convert how much shares they own and change that back to Bitcoin. So that's happening. And from the looks of it, everything is moving in the direction where institutional interest is growing at such a rapid pace. Combine that with the previous news where more and more businesses are starting to realize it's a great treasury reserve asset. And you're left wondering, like, why are we still here where we are, and why is retail not getting in? But my guess is it will take a bit of time until they realize this as well. But nevertheless, great to see Wall Street is interested. Public miners are buying. In countries where it's been restricted, you can now actually own and mine Bitcoin. And from the looks of it, everything indicates to a very positive autumn and then into a positive winter. And with that, we're at the end of this week in Bitcoin. I hope you liked it. You know the drill. If you got questions, feedback, or just want to say hello, leave a comment below. And I look forward to seeing you next week again.